Hello everybody, welcome to F1 Grandstand. Thank you for joining me tonight for your Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying roundup show. Wow, what a day. What a day. There's been some shock results. Half of the Ferrari team did brilliantly. The other half didn't. Aston Martin put in a performance today, a huge uptick in performance from that car and their drivers. And the battle at the top for McLaren, well, again, it's been so tight in qualifying today. Just to give you an idea, between the top 10 drivers, only 6/10 separated from first to 10th. That's how tight it has been today in qualifying. And as we know, Hungaroring really is the Poundland Monaco. Incredibly difficult to overtake, so qualifying is very, very important. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into these shot results. Okay, so as you can see from the thumbnail, Lewis Hamilton is broken, and he is. He's absolutely distraught with his performance today. So Lewis Hamilton, he qualified P12, which is not good. But what makes it worse is that his teammate put the Ferrari on pole. So what does that mean for Hamilton? Well, as we know, Hamilton has been complaining about the Ferrari. He's been complaining about the new rear suspension, the upgrades can't quite get the setup right. Whereas Leclerc at Spa said, you know what? The rear suspension's helped the car a lot. And he really felt it was getting dialed in. And he put it on P3 in qualifying in Spa. And now, in Hungary, at the Hungaroring, Leclerc goes and puts it P1 and Hamilton puts it P12. So obviously Hamilton is absolutely distraught. And in the interview after qualifying, where the journalist, I don't exactly know which journalist asked him the question, but she said, is there anything you can do to improve the car for tomorrow? In which Hamilton replied, change the driver. Wow. So Hamilton's mentality now is obviously at an all-time low. Because how would you argue it's the car when your teammate has put the same car on P1? And you could just tell Hamilton took all the blame, all the responsibility. It was all on him, which, to be honest, is the right thing to do. But to put it in perspective, Hamilton in Q2 did a 1:15.7. That would have put him P7 in Q3. Pole, which Leclerc did, was 1:15.3. So he's still 3/10 behind Leclerc. But to be honest, he's always been 3 to 4/10 behind Leclerc all season. All season. So really, he's been consistent with his performance compared to Charles Leclerc. The difference is, on a track like Hungaroring, is that there is such a narrow gap between first and 10th that every single 10th makes a huge difference. I mean, to put it in perspective again, there was 2/100ths of a second behind P1 and P2. 2/100ths of a second. That's how close it is between these top 10 drivers. So, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's 1/10 or a second. If you are behind, you're behind. It doesn't matter if it's 100th. And Hamilton knows that. So right now, Hamilton's going home from qualifying in P12 while his teammate's P1, knowing that it's not the car. If the car can achieve P1 and it's achieved by somebody else, your teammate, I don't know how you come back from that tomorrow. I think you will. I mean, Hamilton has won 8 times. 8 times in Hungary. 8 times. More than anybody else. So what is his reply going to be tomorrow from P12 on the grid? And what do you think this means for Hamilton? Do you think this is really indicative that Hamilton perhaps has lost a couple of tenths because he's a little bit older? Do you think that the car flattered him when he was winning at Mercedes, because it was a great car? And when we see these drivers in lesser cars putting in performances that, I don't know. I mean, it's a debate, isn't it? It's a talking point, and I want to hear your thoughts on it, because I hate to see anybody, any sports person, at the end of their career, or the latter stages of the career, where they lose that edge, they lose that performance, they lose that tenth. Whether it's Formula One, football, we see it. Age is not your friend in sport. I mean, there's only really Ronaldo, who manages to perform at the highest level. And even he, when he came to Manchester United, couldn't really do the running. So we have to accept that the sands of time flow for everybody. And is this more a Hamilton thing purely because he's getting older and he's not as good as he once was? Or is this a Hamilton thing that he just hasn't got to grips with this Ferrari? But he's had now is 13 races in this car. He's never outperformed Leclerc, really, in any race. Leclerc looks always to be 3 or 4 tenths ahead of Hamilton. So what does it mean for him? What does it mean for Hamilton at this point? What do you think? I'm interested to know what your take on it is. Can Hamilton come back and be the dominant driver? He's just been paid, what is it, 40 million a year to help take Ferrari back to the top. They expected Hamilton to be the driver who could win a world championship, but he just doesn't look like that right now, does he? He doesn't look like the driver to do that. Leclerc, if anybody, looks like the driver to do that at Ferrari right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Get in the chat and tell me what you think. The question with Hamilton is this just indicative of his twilight career? Like he's in the twilight of his career, and the younger driver like Leclerc is just better equipped? Or is it purely that Hamilton hasn't adjusted to the Ferrari, and he isn't able to get that Ferrari set up in a way that allows for us to get the best out of Hamilton? But to see a driver, an 8-time world champion, to be interviewed after qualifying, and when he's asked, is there anything that can improve the car? And for that driver to say, change the driver, it's heartbreaking. I've never seen Hamilton in a place like that. I mean, I don't know if you have, but I want to hear your thoughts. Get in the chat window. Is this the beginning of the end for Hamilton purely because of his age? Or are we going to see Hamilton come back tomorrow with an incredible performance? Because remember, I had Hamilton as my driver of the day at Spa. He took P18 to P7. He made good decisions. It was a mature performance. He was the first to go on slicks, the first to benefit from that choice. And, you know, it was vintage Hamilton, really, in a lot of ways. He was passing cars for fun. And it looked like he'd found some groove with that Ferrari. So I want to hear your thoughts. That's the big story. Hamilton, what do we think? Where does he go from here? And where does he go tomorrow? Now, I don't just want to beat... And I'm not going to not give Charles Leclerc his props for... He did an amazing job today. To put that Ferrari on P1 and get a pole was phenomenal in a field that was that tight. Like I said, from P1 to P10, there were 6 tenths separating the first 10 drivers. And that doesn't matter, because all that matters is who was first. And he was first. So massive congratulations to Leclerc. Well-deserved pole. Incredible drive. Very excited to see what you can do from the clean air at the front tomorrow and how that will impact the race. So Leclerc, congratulations. P1. Did you expect to see a Ferrari P1 today? I did not. I expected to see an improvement for Ferrari, and I will hold my hands up. I thought it'd be Hamilton. My prediction was Hamilton was going to finish P3 in the race tomorrow. But I think I've chosen the wrong Ferrari driver. I think Leclerc is bang on for a podium tomorrow. Bang on for a podium. Max is nowhere. Oscar and Lando will battle it out at the top. They will pass, I believe they will pass Leclerc pretty quickly. And they'll battle it out at the top. But it's a very hard track to overtake, isn't it? Tell me your thoughts in the chat window. So yeah, well done to Leclerc. P1, well deserved. Another feel-good story. Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin. What did I tell you? I told you the Astons was going to be a marked improvement. I said they're going to run the new upgrade and the car is going to be better. And guess what? It is better. It's consistently performed well over the last few days. Fernando Alonso is nursing a back injury and he still put that car P5. And he was only a 10th behind Leclerc on P1. So Fernando Alonso with a back injury, he missed FP1. Again, 44 years old. We're talking about Hamilton being an older driver and how it's affected his performance. Well, then Alonso's maybe proven me wrong because he puts the Aston Martin P5 and the Aston Martin's been pretty damn horrible this season. And it's the last big major upgrade we're going to see from Aston Martin this season. And it's a good one. It's made a difference. And I am delighted that that's the case. And it's not just Alonso who's put in a good performance today at P5. 100th of a second behind Alonso is Lance Stroll, P6. So that's two Aston Martins on the third row of the grid. What do you think about that? Have we seen a major shift for Aston Martin for the rest of the season? And also, are we all getting excited about the Aston Martin for 2026, that newie car? So yeah, huge improvement from Aston. Obviously, I think we're going to see point scoring for tomorrow with the Astons, and they are in their strongest position of the season. So I'm very, very, very pleased about Aston Martin's performance today. Get in the chat window, tell me what you think. Are we seeing a huge shift for Aston Martin and their season? And also look at Lance Stroll. Like, Lance Stroll gets slated, doesn't he? Because his dad owns a team. A lot of people don't believe he deserves a drive. But you've got two drivers in equal cars. And yes, Alonso did qualify P5 and Stroll qualified P4. But there was 100th of a second between them. So those cars evenly matched. And those drivers both performing well. So we know Lance does well at the Hungaroring. He has always done well at the Hungaroring. It's a good track for him. But to be within 100th of a second of your teammate, well done. Lance Stroll deserves a recognition for a very good day. And here's to some other not so good news. Kimi Antonelli, he has been under a lot of pressure. We've been focusing on him because his performances just have not been good enough. He looked promising in practice. He put it on P5. I was thinking this is going to be a day where he's going to prove that he can still handle the pressure and he can still put that car in a decent position in qualifying. George Russell put the Mercedes in P4. Unfortunately, Kimi Antonelli put the car P15 out in Q2, showing again that perhaps he's not ready to be driving that Mercedes. In real terms, how far behind the pace was he? Well, George Russell, his Q3 qualifying time was 1:15.5. Kimi Antonelli, 1:16.3. That's what, nearly 9/10 behind. That is just not good enough. I'm sure we can all agree. So, Kimi Antonelli, with his contract still not been negotiated for 2026, this qualifying performance has not helped his cause. Remember, Valtteri Bottas sat in that third seat, waiting to jump into the car. I think Toto Wolff will keep letting Antonelli drive till the end of the season, but it is not nailed on that he's going to be in that Mercedes 2026. I know Toto Wolff has been saying it's highly likely that my driver lineup's going to be George and Kimi. Well, actually, it's highly likely. It's actually nailed on that George will be in the seat. It is not at the moment 100% nailed on that Kimi is going to be that driver in 2026 if he keeps performing like that. The weight of the world's on his shoulders. He is going into a break. If he pulls out some sort of stellar performance in the race tomorrow that can lift him up, then we might see him come back from the break in a different frame of mind. But right now, weight of the world on his shoulders. P15 is just not good enough, but I am rooting for him. I do want him to do well. I do think he's a generational talent. I do think he's got all the ingredients to be a top driver. But he's only 18, and we've seen the pressure of driving a top car too soon crush a driver. Yeah. Speaking of that, actually, for a more positive news story, somebody who did get crushed by driving in a Red Bull, which wasn't really his fault, but he didn't do well. He's had to come back driving in the sister team for the Racing Bulls, and we've seen Liam Lawson put that Racing Bulls on P9, out qualifying Hadjar. So the last three races, we've seen Liam Lawson perform better, I think, than Hadjar. And, you know, the weight of that crushing loss of losing a Red Bull seat, and we have seen him handle that loss incredibly well. He's got in that Racing Bulls car, and he's putting in solid, consistent performances. And today he out-qualified Hadjar by a 10th. Which on a track where, you know, people are separated by hundredths of a second, you know, we have to say, Liam Lawson, congratulations, you've out-qualified Hadjar. And both Racing Bulls out-qualified the Red Bulls. They didn't out-qualify both Red Bulls, but they out-qualified Yuki's Red Bull. Max Verstappen put the Red Bull P8, and then we saw Liam Lawson P9 and Hadjar P10. And Yuki was down in P16 again. Nowhere, completely off the pace, which begs the question, what would Max do in the Racing Bull car? It'd probably be winning the championship. The Racing Bull car is definitely better than the Red Bull car. You know, you've got two drivers that are not slow, but they are rookies compared to Max. And they were only 1/10. Liam Lawson was 1/10 behind Max Verstappen in the Red Bull today. 1/10. You know, what can I say? The Racing Bulls look good. The Red Bull car looks awful. Max, if Max is P8, then that's as good as that car can. That is extrapolating the maximum amount of performance out of that car. What I would love to see is an experiment. Imagine putting Max in a Racing Bull. Could you imagine? Let's see how he would do. Because, again, it comes back to the argument, should we really have sister teams in Formula One? Does that really give them 4 cars on the grid that they control? I know the FIA say, no, that's not true. That can't happen. But in reality, if Laurent Mekies got on the phone to Alan Permain and said, let my guy through, do you think he'd say no? Of course he would. A little text, little WhatsApp message, get out of the freaking way. Hold up Oscar Piastri. Like, who's to say that doesn't go on? I'm sure it does. So I don't even think we should have sister teams in Formula One. I think it damages the integrity of the grid. That's just my opinion. What do you think? Do you think we should have sister teams in Formula One? But anyway, yeah, I have to say, congratulations to Liam Lawson. You can't argue with a P9, and you can't argue with him outperforming his teammate. It's incredible, really. Because imagine driving for Red Bull, getting that dream drive. That's all he spoke about. He wants to drive for Red Bull. And he was so cocky in a good way for a driver to have that cockiness. He gets the drive, and God, talk about getting humbled. He was humbled. He was awful. And we know the Red Bull car is very difficult to drive. We know it's awful. But then literally being kicked back down to the sister team, that could ruin a driver. But it hasn't done. Liam Lawson's come back, fighting. After that, bruised. His ego must be bruised. But look at him now. He is putting in solid performances weekend after weekend. And we all thought Hadjar was the jewel in the Racing Bulls crown. But, you know, Liam Lawson outperforming Hadjar. And if you believe that leaked Red Bull document from when Horner was in charge, just before he got sacked, the leaked Red Bull document said it was going to be Max driving for Red Bull, Hadjar in seat 2, Liam Lawson was going to keep his seat at Racing Bulls, Yuki out, and Lindblad in. I still believe that to be the case. Yuki's performances are not strong enough to keep a Red Bull seat. I think with Laurent Mekies taking over at Red Bull, there was a fighting chance that he could change the top brass's minds, and he'd have an ally in Laurent Mekies to fight for him at Red Bull. But what's he fighting with? Where's the ammunition? Yuki qualified P16. It's not good enough. I did a video on why Yuki is going to be out, and on that leaked document. Go and have a look at it if you're interested. But Yuki is out. Who the hell is he going to drive for next season? Honda have got an exclusive arrangement with Aston Martin to supply the engine, so there's no space for him there. You know, Lance Stroll's not going to lose his seat. Alonso's not going to lose his seat next year. So Yuki will be lucky to find a seat on the grid in Formula One next year. So all Yuki's got going for him now is he's got, 11 races to prove he deserves a seat in F1. And he needs to do it in a Red Bull. Now, we know Max and Yuki now have equal cars. They didn't before. They do now. That's the one change that Laurent Mekies has done. He has insisted that Yuki gets the same car as Max. And we saw it, didn't we, at Spa, where Max had the new floor and Yuki didn't. So going into the qualifying for the race, he made the engineers work overnight and put that new floor in Yuki's car. And then Yuki put a good qualifying performance in. He qualified, where was it? I think it was P7. So that's the one change Laurent Mekies has done. And it's now down to Yuki. What's he going to be able to do? Because he is fighting for his life to save himself, to keep a seat in Formula One. Make sure you get involved in the chat. Tell me your thoughts. I'm very keen to know what you think about what we're talking about. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you disagree. And tell me why. This is a fan channel. This is about opinion. I give you mine, you give me yours, and we can discuss it. So yeah, Liam Lawson, well done, Liam. Totally deserved. And again, Isaac Hadjar, solid performance. Let's have a look at the rest. Max Verstappen, P8, just not good enough. Is the Red Bull going to be competitive tomorrow? I don't know. I don't think so. Because this track suits a balanced car, and that Red Bull looks anything but balanced. Yeah, and again, touching on that big story of the day, just a reminder if you haven't just joined us, Lewis Hamilton, absolutely distraught after qualifying. How does he come back from his teammate putting the same car, P1, and him putting the Ferrari P12? How does he come back from that? Is it that he can't get to grips with the Ferrari, or is it simply the sands of time, age getting the best of him? And we've seen the best of Lewis Hamilton. And Ferrari has spent all this money to bring him in, but really, are they backing the wrong horse? Is it really Leclerc that's going to give him the championship? And Lewis is just going to help him maybe develop the car. Is Lewis ever going to get his 8th world championship? He believed he was going to do it with the Ferrari. He wants to do it with the Ferrari, but has time just got the better of him? Is it just too late? Not that he should be upset. He's one of the greatest F1 drivers that ever lived. He's won equal to, with Michael Schumacher, the most amount of world championships any driver has ever won. There's no shame in getting older. This is not about casting shame on Lewis, because he must be, all that self-doubt must be crippling him tonight. He's going to be coming away from qualifying going, what can I do? I've not been on pace with Leclerc all year. I've moaned about the car. I've blamed the car. I've blamed the upgrades. But today, it's the first time we've seen him just say, when the journalist asked him, how can that car go quicker tomorrow? What can be done? He said, change the driver. It is heartbreaking. No one wants to see a driver in that place, especially after he was my driver of the day at Spa, and he was my driver of the day. To go from P18 to P7, I thought he'd cracked it. I thought he'd got to grips with this Ferrari. I thought those upgrades were helping him. I thought he'd got those upgrades dialed in. He was passing cars for fun, but again, it was a damp or wet track. He is a wet weather specialist. But yeah, it's heartbreaking to see. But what does it mean for Lewis tomorrow? I want to be positive, right? I don't want to just Lewis bash. I want to know what you think he can do tomorrow to turn it around. Obviously, there's something they can do with strategy. Maybe a one-stop strategy, could be the answer for him, from P12. Can the team help him with a strategy that can help him recover from P12? Because Leclerc's not going to be on a one-stop strategy for sure. He's going to be in the clean air. And what's going to happen with, he's going to be in the clean air to be at the start of the race. I think Piastri and Norris will pass Leclerc. What do you think? I think it's going to be McLaren 1-2 and Leclerc P3. And I did, if you saw my preview show, you'll know that I predicted Hamilton will be P3. I got it wrong. The Ferrari driver I should have been backing is Leclerc. Leclerc will be P3 tomorrow. Hamilton, if he gets points, I think he'll be pretty pleased from P12, because this track is so difficult to overtake. It really is the Poundland Monaco, without the walls, but still twisty, turny, no long straights. DRS isn't that much of a benefit. Balanced cars do well. I don't want it to be a boring race tomorrow. I want to see some overtaking, but it is incredibly hard to overtake at the Hungaroring, which is why we call it, I call it the Poundland Monaco. Everyone else calls it the Monaco without the walls, but it really is the Poundland Monaco for me. That's what I think. It's going to be an interesting race to see the frame of mind that Lewis will bring to the grid tomorrow. I'm heartbroken for him, actually. I don't like seeing a driver broken, but I do love a redemption story. Don't you? I love a driver that he's gone home tonight absolutely deflated, absolutely dejected. But are we going to see him come back with the fire tomorrow? Are we going to see something different from Hamilton? Can he do something different? I hope so. Get involved, get in the chat, say hello, tell me where you're watching from. But I am hoping to see Hamilton redeem himself in the race tomorrow. I've been bashing him a little bit. I don't think it's the end for Hamilton. I just think that Hamilton needs to find his groove. And he needs to do it quickly. And he needs to start getting on par with his teammate. 4 tenths behind your teammate is not good enough. We all know that. And you can't just do well in the wet because you're an experienced driver who's brilliant in the wet. You have to perform in peak conditions, right? Level playing field. You've got to do it. And tomorrow you got a chance to redeem yourself somehow. Obviously, for Ferrari, they want 2 cars in the points, but even more, they need a car on the podium. So that's my prediction. I think it's going to be Piastri, Norris, Leclerc. Big shout out to George Russell. George Russell did put that Mercedes P4, and that's a good lap, because honestly, that Mercedes had no business being there, to be honest. It didn't look good. It didn't look balanced. But he did get it. P4. Can he do anything? Can he attack the podium? Well, of course he can, because anything can happen in the race. So, you know, Oscar, Lando, Leclerc, any of those three drivers have an incident tomorrow, we could see Russell on the podium. Because the thing about Russell is consistency. Like, Russell is one of those drivers. He's super consistent. He always gets the best out of the car. And what else does he always do? He always brings the car home. He'll always bring the car home. He reminds me a little bit of... Did you ever watch The Wacky Racers? I don't know why this is. He reminds me of Dick Dastardly from The Wacky Racers. I don't know why. It's not because of his demeanour. I don't know, but it's just his look. He reminds me of Dick Dastardly. I just think with a little moustache. He reminds me of Dick Dastardly from The Wacky Racers. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. But the thing about... the reason why Russell is worth his contract at Mercedes and why Toto Wolff should not have left him hanging to secure him for next year is because he is the number one driver. He's uber consistent. He always scores points. He always gets the best out of the driver. He's a sponsor's dream, isn't he? Like, you never really see him. In his interviews, he gives great value without really throwing anyone under the bus. He speaks so eloquently. He'll tell you that the car's not great without sort of really making the team unhappy about it. Whereas some drivers are so blunt and abrasive that the team, like Lewis, unfortunately, perhaps suffers from this. He can be so blunt and abrasive about the car that you can imagine the team not working for him. Whereas George, you can imagine everyone at Mercedes loving him, working for him, wanting to build a car for him. And I think that's really important. If you're a driver, it's not just about driving the car. It's about motivating the team around you to want to build you a car and also want to do the extra mile, work those long nights to try and get you a car that can be competitive. And also when you see Russell getting the best out of a car that even the team know is not good enough, it keeps them motivated. They know that he's making them look as good as he possibly can. And that's your job as a driver. When you drive the socks off a car that is not competitive, you are making the team look good. And they know you're doing that. And it's the same when you're in, say, a newie car, which is way better than perhaps which flatters the driver. You know, every day you need to be buying that guy a present. You know, because it's one or the other. The balance, the perfect balance between machine and man is rare, right? Senna is a great example. He would make the machine look good, wouldn't he? Schumacher would make the machine look good. And then when you look at, say, newie cars from, like, in Williams, that machine made the driver look good. You know, Damon Hill winning the World Championship in a Williams designed by Adrian Newey. I would say when you've got on the grid drivers like Senna, Prost, Schumacher, well, then the machine made the driver look good, right? So let's flip that. George Russell makes the machine look good. Now, next year, it's going to be a different story. A whole different story, because Mercedes will come back with a car in 2026 that is super competitive. And coupled with George Russell's driving style, his talent, his consistency, his ability to always score points, always bring the car home, maximize results, well, then we could see George Russell winning a world championship next year. Which brings me full circle to my original point. How did you leave George Russell hanging for his contract? Outrageous. You should have secured that guy at the beginning of the year. So I'm glad he's got a 2-year extension to his deal. And I'm glad he's got, they're still working out the money, but I believe it's around 30 million a year. And I know Toto was flirting with Max because everyone says Max is the greatest driver on the grid. Might be true. But you put Max in that Mercedes and they build a car for Max. What's the one thing we've all learned about building a car for Max? It doesn't really work for anybody else, no matter how good they are. So You can't win a Constructors' World title with one driver. You just can't do it. You need your number 2 driver to be scoring points. You do. The ideal partnership is 1-2. Your driver's getting 1-2. Both drivers on the podium. The risk is you might not get that with Max as your driver. But with George, I would argue he would be, I'm going to get slated for this. I would argue George would be my preferred number 1 driver over Max Verstappen. He would. Because of that. Tell me what you think. And also, with Max Verstappen, you got to deal with his dad chipping in all the time, getting people fired. Like, could you be bothered with that? Like, I'd have to have a rule if I signed Max Verstappen that Joss wasn't allowed in the garage. I mean, he's too busy. Nobody wants your driver's dad causing waves in the garage. I don't think you get that with George Russell, do you? You just don't. So yeah, I've gone off on a tangent a little bit, but all of that talk of Toto wanting to get Max, Toto, you don't do it. You've got a top driver in George Russell. He's consistent. He is making Mercedes look better than they are. You stop flirting with Max and start telling George he's your number 1 guy. And yeah, get that contract secured. And if you've offered him 30 million a year and he wants 40 million, give it to him. I think he's everything Mercedes needs. He's Mr. Mercedes. So flirt with Max is not the one. That's just my opinion. But anyway, George again, he put the car P4 and Kimi Antonelli P15. So that's all of your news from Mercedes. Yeah. So quick last rundown. Full rundown of the qualifying results. Leclerc P1, Piastri P2, Norris P3, Russell P4, Alonso, well done Alonso, P5, Lance Stroll P6, well done Lance. Oh, I've got to mention Gabriel Bortoletto, P7 in a Sauber, well done. Bortoletto put in a shift today, P7, well done, superb result. Again, F2 champion, showing why he got that F1 seat this season. Verstappen, P8. Lawson, great result, P9. Hadjar, P10. Great results from the Racing Bulls, well done. Behrman, he's always consistent. He's always around that P11 mark, isn't he? I do think he needs to raise his game. Lewis Hamilton, P12. Awful day at the office for Lewis. Carlos Sainz, P13. Colapinto, P14. Antonelli, terrible day at the office, P15. Yuki, P16, terrible day at the office for Yuki. Gasly, P17. Ocon, P18. Hulkenberg, P19. And Albon, P20. So that's your full rundown of the grid. We know the highlights. Leclerc, P1. Both Aston Martins, 4 and 5. Excellent result. Bortoletto, P7, great result. The 2 Racing Bulls, 9 and 10, well done. And then we know the tragedies. Hamilton, P12. Tragedies, Kimi Antonelli, P15. Oh, just not good enough. Just not good enough. So yeah, get in the chat. Tell me your thoughts. Are you going to be excited for the race tomorrow? And by the way, do not forget, I will be doing the race watch along for the Grand Prix tomorrow. That's where you watch it at your house. I watch it here. We can interact in the chat window, watch all the action together. I will be streaming for the whole time. Please do get involved. It just means that we can share ideas, discuss what the action together live. Really good fun. That we did it last week for Spa, and honestly, lots of laughs, very funny. The first hour of filling, actually, of waiting for the Grand Prix to start was hilarious. People getting involved in the chat was really good fun. I'd love to see you all there, because remember, this is a fan channel. It's all about community. I give you my opinion, you give me yours, we debate it, and we love it. That's how we want to build this community. And I don't care if you're brand new and you don't know anything about Formula One whatsoever, or if you have an encyclopedic knowledge and you're a professor. In fact, we love you in the chat, because you can help other people learn about this sport, and we can all do it together. That's what we're trying to do, right? I'll always be here every day with a live stream at 7:30, and I'll always be doing the watch alongs where we can all get together, hang out, have our chats, and enjoy the Grand Prix. So I think I've waffled on enough. I hope that you've enjoyed the Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying results rundown. I'm very excited about the race tomorrow. I will see you live for the watch along for the stream, and then I will see you later on when I do my roundup show of the race. Lots still to get through, all the action still to happen tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Ta-ta.